What's going on, guys? Cultimush back at it with another video. This is an $800 full gaming setup, so it's just like my gaming PC builds that I do, but this series of videos is also going to include the monitor, keyboard and the mouse, and the operating system. I've been requested to do this several times, so here it finally is. So we are going to cover the PC parts and the PC specs first, and then at the end of the video, we're going to go over the peripherals. So let's get started with the CPU of this build. I went with the Intel Core i3 4160 3.6 GHz dual-core processor. Now yes, while it is a dual-core CPU, it is clocked at 3.6 GHz, and it comes at a really good price of around $105. I've been seeing a lot of discounts on this CPU right now. I've been seeing a lot of sales, and if you really look hard enough, you can get this CPU for sub $100, which at that point is a great deal. Now, while some people are going to get scared off being only a dual-core processor, it does have hyper-threading, which adds to virtual cores as well, and it can still run games like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt if paired with a decent video card, which we do have in this build. Also, this CPU is on the LG1150 socket, so if you do want to upgrade it in the future, say to like an i5 or even an i7, you can do that. But right now, for this kind of price, the i3 performs really well in gaming. While it does lag behind in things like video editing, live streaming, and rendering, in gaming, it's really good for the price. For the motherboard, I went with the Gigabyte GA-H97M-D3H Micro ATX LG1150 motherboard. Now, yes, it is a Micro ATX motherboard, but it's only $80, and it still comes with 4 RAM slots up to DDR3 1600MHz and up to 32GB of max memory. It also has RAID support, 6 SATA 60fps ports, and onboard USB 3 headers. So all in all, this is a good budget-end motherboard from MSI. In my opinion, it does come in a hideous black and yellow color scheme, but in a budget build, you're not really worried about things like that. So you should be just fine. For $80, is a solid motherboard to go with. Has a decent amount of features, but as a budget-end motherboard, it gets the job done, which is what you're looking for in a budget build like this. For memory, I went with Kingston HyperX Fury Black 8GB, 24GB sticks running at DDR3 1600MHz. So 8GB of RAM right now is only $45, and this is pretty good quality RAM from Kingston, so that's really great to see. This kind of RAM 6 months ago would have been like $60 to $70, so it is good to see that DDR3 RAM prices are coming down. And 8GB of RAM is a great amount to have, but if you do want to go for a 12 or 16GB configuration in the future, that option will be open since the motherboard does have 4 RAM slots. But for now, pick up this 8GB kit for only $45 and it's going to do great in all the latest games. For storage, I went with the Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB. It's a 3.5-inch hard drive, no SSD in this build. I think you guys would much prefer the mass storage out of the Caviar Blue over, say, a 120GB SSD. And this Caviar Blue is also reasonably fast given that it's a mechanical drive. And for $50, you're getting a terabyte of storage, which isn't bad. If you guys think that you need more than a terabyte, Seagate has 2 and 3 terabyte drives that are on sale all the time. I think they're 2 terabytes. You could find them for like $70 to $80, and you can find their 3 terabyte drives for around $100. So if you think you do need more than a terabyte, maybe look at those. Otherwise, the Caviar Blue 1TB for $50 is a decent option to go with. For the video card, I went with the MSI Radeon R9 382GB video card for around $200. Before I get more into this video card, I should preface that if you guys have the extra cash available, I would highly recommend to get the 4GB model of this GPU. It's about $30 to $40 more expensive, but a lot of games I see in the future really utilizing that, and I think if you do pick up the 4GB model, that's going to end up paying dividends in the future, so maybe check that out if you do have the extra money available. Otherwise, the R9 382GB is still a solid video card for $200. It's going to perform really well at 1080p. While it can't max out a game like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and get 60 frames per second, you can still play that game at around high and still get 45 to 50 frames per second. You'll be able to play games like Dying Light, Battlefield 4, upcoming games like Fallout 4, Star Wars Battlefront, Metal Gear Solid 5. Those games are going to run pretty well on this GPU. And this MSI model also has a decent cooler on it, so if you guys want to overclock and get a bit of more performance out of it, you can do that as well. For $200, it's a pretty good GPU, but like I said, if you have the extra cash available, pick up the 4GB model. It'll pay dividends in the future. For the power supply, I went with the EVGA 600W 80+ bronze certified power supply. 600 watts honestly is probably more than you need. You can check out a EVGA 500W or Seasonic's got some good power supplies if you do want to save a couple bucks. And $50 for a 600W power supply that's 80+ bronze certified is a really good deal, and like I said, it's going to power this build no problem. For the case, I went with the NZXT Source 210 Elite Black ATX mid-tower case for around $45. Now aesthetically, I think this case looks pretty good. It's got front USB 3 ports, and it's overall a pretty solid case for a relatively good price of $45. This is one of my favorite budget end cases under $50. It's got the front USB 3 ports, it's got decent ventilation and decent cable management. It's a case that wasn't going to break the bank, but you're not underspending on the case either. I think this is the perfect kind of case you want in a budget end build like this. So the NZXT Source 210 Elite was a pretty good option in this build. This also comes in black or white, so pick the color of your preference. Now moving on to the peripherals, let's start with the monitor. I went with the Asus VS228H-P 21.5-inch 1080p monitor. Now this is a fairly standard 1080p monitor from Asus. It's around $120. 1080p is definitely the resolution you want to go for with a build like this. The R9 380 is pretty good at gaming at 1080p. Like I said, all the higher end games like Witcher 3, Dying Light, you'll be able to play those games at pretty good settings at 1080p and still get really good frame rates. Now this monitor is 21.5-inch, which I think think is fine. A lot of you guys prefer a 23-inch monitor, so if you guys want something like that, those are available for around $140. I myself, I have a 21.5-inch Asus monitor, and I think it's perfectly fine to game on that, but if you do want the 23-inch, it is available. And as far as connection goes, you're looking at one VGA, one DVI-D, and one HDMI port. So overall, a pretty basic monitor, but it's 1080p, it's from Asus, who have a great track record with all their monitors, and they have a great warranty policy as well. For $120, this is a really good deal. For keyboard and mouse, I went with the Cooler Master Storm Devastator. The combo is available on Amazon. It's a mouse and a keyboard for around $25. Now that's a fantastic price for the pair. Obviously, you shouldn't be expecting anything crazy. I don't think it's really essential to spend a lot of money on the keyboard and the mouse, especially if this is your first gaming PC build. You want to put the majority of the money into the PC itself and the monitor. Now this combo comes in blue LEDs, green LEDs, or red LEDs, so just pick the color of your preference. And overall, it's a pretty basic pair, but it is a 2000 DPI mouse, which at this price is pretty good. And the LEDs on the keyboard also look pretty nice. So overall, for around $25, this is a decent combo. It's not going to break the bank at all. It's very cheap. And really, in my opinion, that's what you're looking out of a budget keyboard and mouse. Finally, for the OS, you can pick up a CD key for Windows 8.1 on G2A for around $24. Now, keep in mind, if you buy a CD key off G2A, you don't actually get the installation files. So you either have to borrow the disc from a friend, or you can acquire the files through another nefarious way that we won't get into in this video. I myself wouldn't spend $100 on an OS these days. You can go on r/Microsoft Software Swap if you wanted a bit cheaper as well. But there's a lot of ways to acquire the CD key for a very cheap price of around $25 to $30, and then you can just acquire the installation files either from a friend, or like I said, there's a more nefarious way to do it as well. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, you can pick up a copy of Windows 8 for around $80. So that concludes this video. I will also leave some optional accessories down below in the description box, like headsets, speakers, if you guys are interested and you want to pick those up as well. So as always, guys, thanks for watching this video. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Took a little bit longer than your typical build, but I'll try to do them at a regular basis. Leave your requests for future videos in the comment section down below, and as always, guys, have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.